Welcome back to another lecture of Dental Pathshala, where we help you understand and learn dentistry better and easy. And this video is a continuation of the express revision course for oral surgery, and last video we have covered the zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture classification. So two classification we have covered in the previous lecture: low energy and mid energy and the high energy fracture. So low energy fracture is when low level of impact is there is no displacement or there is minimal displacement we see. Low energy level fracture does not require any operative, so it can be corrected, treated non-surgically. Then we have studied the middle energy level fracture. The middle energy level fracture, we see that there is slight displacement of the zygomatico-maxillary zygomatic complex fracture, so it requires actually the reduction and the internal fixations. So today's video, while we are talking about the treatment of the zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture, we will be studying about the internal fixation and the reduction about it. And mid-energy level fracture is usually reduced with the help of a Carrel-Girard screw, and we stabilize the zygomatico-maxillary buttress. And then we have the high energy fracture. So high energy zygomatic complex fracture is basically due to aggressive injury. In case of there is all the processes of the zygoma are fractured. In this case, either we go for a bicoronal flap, which we have covered in the Lefort, or we have to go for subconjunctival incision, and then we have sometimes we have to reconstruct the orbital floor as well. So that also we are going to cover in the fixation. So let's talk about the today's continuation. Today we will be talking about, also we have studied one more classification, which is the Rowe and the Kelly classification. So today we will be talking about the sign and the symptom of zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture. Whenever there is a fracture, we see these general signs like there is swelling associated with the fracture, or there is edema, which we call the swelling, right? So there is edema, ecchymosis, because there is a rupture of blood vessels beneath the skin. Say this is the skin, and then beneath the skin we have got the blood vessels, right? So because of the rupture of these blood vessels, there is accumulation of the blood, and this blood causes, if we see it from the top, it looks like that there is a darkening of the skin, so which is known as the ecchymosis. So in case of a zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture, we see that orbital floor fracture is usually accompanied by the zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture. So whenever we see that there is a zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture, the one thing which is associated with most of the time is that there is fracture of the orbital bony orbit. So there is ecchymosis and there is circumorbital edema. So we see that there is darkening of the eyes, all around the eyes, and because of the fracture of the zygomatico-maxillary complex, we know that this complex is zygomatic is the cheekbone. So it forms the face, the puffiness of the face, or you can say the aesthetic look. Because there is a fracture to the zygomatic bone, there is depression in the malar eminence. So let's have a look at the zygomatic bone. See, the zygomatic bone faces the malar eminence. So whenever there is a fracture, the whole of the cheek is gone inside. So there is a depression of the malar eminence, and because since it is associated with the orbital floor fracture and the orbital rim, infraorbital rim fracture, so it produces the flattening of the cheek. So most oftenly, once the swelling is subsided, say about 1 week of time, we see that the flattening of cheek is there. So wherever there is depression, we see there is a flattening of the cheek. Also guys, most of the time which we notice, there is a subconjunctival hemorrhage. So how do we see this subconjunctival hemorrhages? The subconjunctival hemorrhage is basically the hemorrhage in the conjunctiva. So say suppose, let's draw it here guys. Say suppose this is the eye, right? And in the eyes, what we see is there is hemorrhage like this, there is a hemorrhage. So we have also seen the subconjunctival hemorrhage in the Lefort fracture also. Since Lefort fracture, there is fracture of the lacrimal bone, ethmoid bone, if you remember, we have studied all that. So there is fracture in the medial part in case of Lefort. But if you see the zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture. Since there is a fracture of the zygoma, so which is the lateral eye which is usually involved. So, and also one more thing I would like to add in here is that there is this Whitnell's tubercle. So, there is a Whitnell's tubercle over here, which is basically a bony protuberance, bony tubercle in the orbit, in the lateral side of the orbit. So, if you see that there is this zygomatico frontal suture or frontozygomatic suture, and below this suture we see this Whitnell's tubercle, say somewhere around 1 centimeter below this tubercle, below 1 centimeter below the zygomatico frontal suture, we see this tubercle. And this tubercle, why we need to know about this tubercle is that, say this is the globe of the eye, right? So this globe of the eye is suspended by the ligament, and this ligament is known as the suspensory ligament. Now this suspensory ligament is attached to the Whitnell's tubercle here. So this is the suspensory ligament of Lockwood which is holding the globe. So this is the Lockwood ligament of suspensory ligament of Lockwood, right? Then this side in the bony, in the bone, orbital bone, we have this Whitnell's tubercle, right? So since there is fracture of this zygomatic bone, this ligament is fractured. So since this ligament is fractured, whole of the thing descend down. So the eyes which are usually like this, right? We have eyes like this. So if you see, this is the medial canthus of the eye. So the medial canthus of the eyes is usually lower than the lateral canthus. You can see this medial canthus is lower than the lateral canthus. And we know that here the lateral part of the, because of the zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture, there is injury to the suspensory ligament of Lockwood. So this whole of the thing descend down. So instead of this form, this is what do we call the mongoloid slant. So this is mongoloid slant. Instead of that, what happens? The eyes become like this. So the lateral canthus becomes more down compared to the medial canthus of the eye. So this particular type of eyes we call the anti-mongoloid slant of the eyes. So all these are the clinical features, guys, which we see are associated with the zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture. And why so? Because this zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture is associated with the orbital floor fracture. And since there is an orbital floor fracture, especially on the lateral wall of the orbit, so there is injury to the suspensory ligament of Lockwood, and whole of the orbit, whole of the lateral canthus is displaced downward, and because of that we see that there is an anti-mongoloid slant. So one more thing, guys, we see that there is fracture of the orbit, right? Since there is fracture of the orbital floor, so you can appreciate over here there is a space behind the eyes. If you can see over here, let me just show you guys, there is a space behind the eye. Since because of the fracture there is injury to infraorbital artery, and the space is between the extraocular muscles. So let's see from the above. So yes, this is the look which I wanted to show you guys. So if you can see over here, we have the space. We have the space behind the eyes. If you can appreciate the space behind the eyes, guys. So that's the space I'm talking about, this particular space. This is the space. So if you can see between these muscles, between the extraocular muscles, so these are the extraocular muscles, right? These are the extraocular muscles, and between these extraocular muscles behind the eyes there is some space. So this space, because of the rupture of the injury to the infraorbital artery, and there is a bleeding in this space, and once there is a bleeding in this space, the pressure increases in this particular area. So there is increase in the intraocular pressure, and because of the increase in the pressure there is compression to the optic nerve, and then this is an emergency situation. So we have to go for the surgical decompression, and in fact if there is a orbital nerve paralysis, if it is not treated, the person can even go blind. So we see that there is antemongoloid slant, which is a clinical feature of a zygomaticomaxillary complex fracture. We see the altered positioning of the globe. We see that ocular movement is also involved. So there is limitation to the motion or the movement of the extraocular muscles. And we have also seen the retrobulbar hemorrhage. So retrobulbar hemorrhage is basically bleeding behind. Retrobulbar is behind the eyes. The space behind the eyes is what do we call the retrobulbar space. And bleeding in the retrobulbar space because of injury to the artery, infraorbital arteries, due to the fracture, there is something known as the retrobulbar hemorrhage, means bleeding. So bleeding behind the eyes is what do we call the retrobulbar hemorrhage. This is a life-threatening situation because in this case it increases the pressure, intraocular pressure, and because of this pressure the patient can undergo the optic nerve damage or the compression of the optic nerve. So it should be treated as soon as possible. So these are the clinical features because of the fracture of the orbital floor, zygomatic complex fracture. There is edema, swelling, ecchymosis, flattening of the cheek due to the fracture of the zygomatic bone and depression of the malar eminence. There is subconjunctival hemorrhage. So we see that there is subconjunctival hemorrhage, especially on the lateral conjunctiva of the eye. So we see that there is subconjunctival hemorrhage. So there is altered globe position because of the fracture to the suspensory ligament of Lockwood. And we have seen that Whitnell's tubercle is basically a bony tubercle, guys, and this is the one in the red is the suspensory ligament of Lockwood, which sustains the position of the globe. And since there is injury to the zygomatic arch, there is injury to the suspension ligament of Lockwood, we see this antemongoloid slant. So which is basically the lateral canthus is lower than the medial. Otherwise what happens normally, M for medial, so you can remember it, normally M for medial, M for mongoloid. So normally we see that mongoloid slant wherein the medial canthus is lower than the lateral canthus. But after zygomatic complex fracture we see the lateral canthus ligament drops down, so there is an antemongoloid slant. So the lateral canthus becomes more lower. And also we have studied that since there is an orbital floor fracture which is associated with the zygomaticomaxillary complex fracture, there is bleeding behind the eye. So in the retrobulbar space, so bleeding in the retrobulbar space, and because of the injury to infraorbital artery, there is retrobulbar hemorrhage, increase in the intraocular pressure. So there is compression to the optic nerve, and this can be a life-threatening situation. So it should be treated as early as possible. So it should be taken as an emergency consideration. Then we also see the enophthalmos, so which is basically the inward sinking of the eyeball, since due to the fracture of the zygomaticomaxillary complex and there is associated orbital fracture, there is expansion of the bony orbit. So because of that we see the enophthalmos, basically sinking of the eyeball, all of the eyeballs goes inside because of the trauma. We also see the diplopia, which is the double vision or the blurred visions. We also see the lateral cantholysis, then which is the lateral canthus, right? Then the blowout term is given by the Smith and the Regan. When do we say that it is a pure blowout fracture? When the orbital remains intact. So there is only the fracture of the zygomatic arch. When do we say that there is an impure blowout fracture? That means the orbital floor are fractured along with the zygomatic arch, as well as the adjacent bones are also fractured. So what are the most common radiograph we go for a zygomaticomaxillary complex fracture? Usually guys we go for the CT scan. And also the best radiograph for the evaluation for a zygomatico-complex fracture is the Waters view. So this you should be familiar with because it can be asked as a question. And also we go for the submento vertex view. We call it the jug handle view. So this view is taken from the submandibular region to the vertex of the skull, as the name suggests. Submandibular region, sub, and to the vertex. So subman to vertex. See, as the name is there, subman means from submandibular region, to means to, and then to the vertex of the skull. Vertex of the skull. Right. Now that we have diagnosed the zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture, it is the time that we treat it. So first thing which we have to do is we have to do the reduction. Then guys, all these things we have already covered in the previous part of the video. So if you haven't watched the videos, please do watch these previous parts first, then you can understand all these things better. So first thing what we have to do is, say this is a fracture fragment like this. So we have to take it back together to its original position. This procedure is what do we call the reduction of the bone. So we do the reduction first, approximating the fracture fragments back into its place. So we have got two methods to do this reduction. Either we can do it non-surgically, which is the closed method, or we can go for a surgical approach. We call it the open reduction. That means do the incision, exposing the skin and exposing the bone, and then reach out to the bone. Then we can approximate, once we have the visualization, we can approximate the fragments together. But we'll be talking about two approaches. In this zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture, the two most important approach are the upper buccal sulcus approach and Gillies temporal approach. So once you have done the reduction, in case if there is a minimally displaced zygomatic complex fracture, or say if there is no displacement. So in case of low energy fracture, I must say, in case of low energy fracture, we go for the closed reduction. So in case of open reduction, we have to expose the parts surgically and then approximate back together. Then guys, after like some few weeks of time, then we go for internal fixation. So we do the incision for internal fixation so that we can fix the plates. So the methods we can go for internal fixation is, one is the Brough method, wherein we are reaching the orbital floor and the zygomatic arch from the lateral eye, Brough approach. Then we have got the infraorbital approach. All these approaches guys we have already covered in the Lee-Ford fracture series, management to the Lee-Ford fracture. So if you want to watch in detail about it, or we have got the separate series, you will find in the playlist the oral surgery series. All these videos are in detail. If you are thinking that we are going little bit fast or the pace is little bit faster, you can watch these videos first, clear your concepts and come back to the lecture series. So infraorbital approach means we are going beneath the eye, infraorbit. Infra means beneath, orbit means eyes. So the first approach is subciliar approach. In the subciliar approach, we just immediately go behind the lower eyelid. Then we have got the in the infraorbital rim, this infraorbital approach is there, crease of the eye. So this is the subciliary approach. Then we have the infraorbital rim approach, infraorbital rim, and then subconjunctival. One more approach is there, subconjunctival. All these approaches we have studied in detail in the Lee-Ford fracture. So subconjunctival hemorrhages, we go from the conjunctiva of the eye. So guys, and then also we can go for upper buccal sulcus approach, so in the buccal vestibule. Then we do the internal fixation, we put the plates and then suture things back. So let's talk about the reduction approach. So guys, in case if the fracture is non-displaced, if the fracture is minimally displaced, or in case there is no cosmetic problem, there is no flattening of the cheek, in all these cases we can go for the non-treatment approach. That means only do the reduction. Then if the fracture is displaced, or there is mid energy level fracture or high energy level fracture, say, in all these cases we have to go for the open reduction and the fixation. So let's talk about the open reduction first. So the first approach we have is the upper buccal sulcus approach. What we do here, we give an incision in the buccal vestibule above the attached gingiva. Then we elevate the flap. We take an elevator. So say suppose we take this elevator and put this elevator beneath this incision, and we reduce the zygomatic arch. So we place this elevator from the incision site and we place it, basically we engage the zygomatic arch, pass this elevator beneath the zygomatic arch, and because of this fracture, from the blow is from the outside, so all of the zygomatic arch is gone, zygoma is gone inside, right? So what do? We place this elevator inside, so beneath it, and then we place it, we put the force upward, forward and outward. We first go up, then we go forward, and then we go outward, so that we place the zygomatic arch back into its position. And this is the approach, what do we call the upper buccal sulcus approach, and then we suture it back. The another approach which we have is the Gillies temporal approach. So the Gillies temporal approach, say here is the temporalis muscle. We have the temporalis muscle, here is the temporalis muscle. I'm going to show you. So say this is the temporalis muscle, so which is beneath the zygomatic arch. So up and above the temporalis muscle there is superficial fascia. I should have made it with the white because it is in white color. So there is this temporalis fascia. So above this we have got the skin. So first we reflect the skin, and then we reflect the temporalis fascia, and then once we reflect all of these parts, we can see the zygomatic arch. So we place the elevator like this, we place the elevator beneath the zygomatic arch, and then we reduce the zygomatic arch. So I'm going to show you. So guys, you can see over here we have got the skin. Once we reflect, do the incision in the skin. So where are we going to give the incision? For the Gillies temporal approach. So we have to go above the helix of the ear. So first thing we do is we shave the head, and then we go 2.5, this is the helix of the ear, we go 2.5 centimeter above, 2.5 centimeter lateral. Say this is the zygomatic arch, we go 45 degrees to the zygomatic arch like this. We made an incision like this, we reflect the skin. So once you reflect the skin, you will find this. So once you reflect the skin, you will find this superficial fascia. You can see this white color, guys, over here is the superficial fascia. So you need to reflect the superficial fascia. Once you remove the superficial fascia, you will find the temporalis muscle. So this is, I am showing you the superficial fascia, the white color, if you can make out beneath the skin, the white color one. So is the superficial temporalis fascia. So now we have removed or reflected the superficial fascia. So one in the yellow in the temporal region, you can see over here is the fat pad. So once we remove that also, now you can appreciate that once you remove the superficial fascia, you can actually reach up to the zygomatic arch. So if you have a look from above, you will find that we can actually reach the zygomatic arch. So there is a space, if you can make out, there is a space. And here is a temporalis muscle. We do not have to reflect or incise the temporalis muscle. We just have to see, guys. So if you can see that there is the zygomatic arch, and if you see that there is a space, guys, if you can appreciate over here, so there is a space. Let me show you, guys. So yes, now I think you can appreciate. Yes, there is a, you can see that this space we pass the elevator. So here is exactly where do we pass the elevator. We have two kinds of elevator which we use. One is the Bristow elevator. So if once you reflect the superficial fascia, so there was the superficial fascia, right? We made this incision, we reflected the superficial temporal fascia, basically the temporal fascia we have to remove. Once you remove the temporal fascia, you don't have to go for temporalis muscle. You can see this temporalis muscle over here. So once you remove the fascia, you can see the space. In this space, we put the elevator. We engage the elevator and then we are going to correct the zygomatic. We are going to reduce the zygomatic arch. So past the elevator blade inside, we have two kinds of elevator. One is the Bristow elevator. So Bristow elevator is something like this, one straight. So we place this elevator and then we do the movement in the outward and the forward direction, and whatever zygomatic arch was gone inside, we correct it. We are going to put it outside. And other one, so Bristow elevator, what happens, because since we are putting this elevator, all the pressure are coming on the temporalis muscle, there are chances that it can fracture the temporalis muscle. So what we do instead, we use this another elevator which we call the Rose elevator, Rose zygomatic elevator. We have also studied the Rose disimpaction forceps, guys, in the Lefort. So this is the Rose zygomatic elevator. So in this particular space, we put this elevator. So this elevator has got something like this structure. So this particular end, we put it inside the zygomatic arch, pass inside the zygomatic arch, and the other blade, which is the stabilizing blade, which is used to just stabilize so that the forces are not coming on the temporal region. So this is how we use this elevators and do the Gillies temporal approach. So we go from the temporal bone. Why it is known as Gillies temporal approaches? Because we are going from the temporal bone. If you can see, we are going from the temporal bone and we have this space, right? Once we reflect the superficial fascia, actually there is a zygomatic arch. So we have to reflect the skin first, then reflect the superficial fascia, and then you can see the zygomatic arch, and there is a space between the temporalis muscle and the zygomatic arch. In this space we are going to pass the elevators. But we have to remember one thing, that there is the superficial temporal artery, so which we need not to impinge, or we need not to damage the superficial temporal artery. So guys, usually we make this incision. So if you can appreciate over here, is the superficial temporal artery we have. So I'm going to show you just now. So if you can see that we have got the superficial temporal artery. So this is the superficial temporal artery. This is the anterior branch or the frontal branch. This one is the posterior or the parietal branch. So we make this incision between the anterior and the parietal branch. So basically we go parallel to the anterior branch like this, which is basically 45 degrees to the zygomatic arch. So you can see we are making this incision 45 degrees to the zygomatic arch, and it is parallel to the anterior branch of the superficial temporal artery. So we go, again I am going to tell you once more, guys. So we go, this is the frontal branch of the superficial temporal artery. This is the temporal artery, right? Superficial temporal artery. This is the posterior or the parietal branch. We make this incision, which is 2.5 centimeter superior to the helix of the ear, 2.5 centimeter anterior to the helix of the ear, which spot is somewhere like this. And we make this incision parallel to the anterior branch or the frontal branch of the superficial temporal artery. We do not have to bisect the artery. We have to make sure that we are not going to injure the artery, and then we make this incision, which is basically, if you can see, which is 45 degrees to the zygomatic arch. So this is the incision which we made. Then we go, we reflect the skin, we reflect the superficial fascia, and then we can reach up to the zygoma. We have this space, if you can see over here, we have this space in the zygomatic arch. So in this space we are going to engage the elevator, either Bristow elevator, which we don't use anymore, or also we can use the Rose zygomatic elevator. So I am going to tell you one more time, guys. Upper buccal sulcus approach for the reduction, we take incision in the buccal vestibule and go from beneath. So from the intraorally we are reaching the zygomatic arch. So if you can appreciate over here, this is the elevator. So we are passing this elevator from the buccal vestibule in the molar region and then reducing the zygomatic arch. The another one is the Gillies temporal approach. So we are going from the ear side, so which is the temporal region, that is why we call it the Gillies temporal approach. We are making an incision 2.5 centimeters superior and anterior to the helix of the ear. So this one in the red is the incision line. So there is the superficial temporal artery, the anterior branch, which is also known as the frontal branch, or the posterior branch, also known as the parietal branch. We make an incision parallel to the anterior branch, so which basically automatically is 45 degrees to the zygomatic arch. We elevate, reflect the skin, reflect the temporal fascia, and then we use this elevator. So we have the space to use the elevator, right, which I have shown you just now. We pass the elevator, either we use the Bristow's elevator or the Rose zygomatic elevator. We do not use the Bristow's elevator anymore because it can fracture the temporal bone, right? So we use this Rose zygomatic elevator. We take this elevator, place it inside the zygomatic arch, and if we can appreciate over here, so we have this end which is gonna inside. So this is the elevating blade. So this elevating blade goes inside the zygomatic arch, and then we pass this blade through the zygomatic arch and we do the outward and the forward force, which is going to place the zygoma back into its position. Then the other end we have is the stabilizing blade, which is going to stabilize it. So we go deep into the zygomatic bone, engage, and there is a like voice of a snap fit, and we know that we have achieved back the zygoma back into its position. So this is the Rose zygomatic elevator, and if you can appreciate, it has got two ends. So and the ends are basically different, so you can appreciate very nicely this Rose zygomatic elevator. So this one end is the elevating blade, the another blade is the stabilizing blade, right? So now we have done the reduction. Now it's the time that we do the internal fixation, right? So internal fixation, we know that we use this plates, mini plates along the buttresses region. We have already studied the buttresses in the Lefort fracture management, right? So guys, the one mini plate which we use in the zygomatic maxillary complex fracture is same as the mini plate which we use for the Lefort, which is the 4-hole mini plate with the 6 mm screws in it. So this is the mini plate which we use for both the Lefort as well as we use for the zygomatic complex fracture as well. So if we are going from the lateral eyebrow approach, we can put this mini plate near to the zygomatico-maxillary complex. Guys, how do we put this plate? Say suppose if we have to place only one plate. So we go from top, we go to bottom. Always we end this placing the mini plate onto the zygomaticomaxillary buttress. So whenever, say this is the fracture, so whenever you are placing the plate, always you are going to end your plate fixation at the zygomaticomaxillary buttress. So this one, right. So you are going to start with the frontozygomatic suture, which is from the top, where you will end from the bottom. So if you are placing any plate, you will end with this one, end with the zygomaticomaxillary. So if you can see, end with the zygomaticomaxillary. If you are placing the 2 plate, end with the zygomaticomaxillary. If you are placing 3 plate, end with the zygomaticomaxillary. If you are placing 4 plate, you are going to end with the zygomaticomaxillary. But if you are doing the orbital reconstruction, that is something which we do at the end, right. So the last plate will be at the last. The first plate is going to be the frontozygomatic always. So we start placing from the top, and then the last part we place the last. So if you can see over here, the first is always the frontozygomatic. So first is the frontozygomatic, first is the frontozygomatic. Quite easy, guys, right? And then we go, second one is our infraorbital, and then second one is our, like last second is infraorbital. So if 3 plates are there, then the last second becomes, right. So that is infraorbital margin. So this one over here. And if we are placing 4 plates, then first one at zygomatico frontozygomatic suture, and then second one we place here at the zygomatic arch, guys. So here at the zygomatic arch, like this. Third one we place at the infraorbital rim, and the fourth one at the zygomaticomaxillary. If we are doing the floor reconstruction, that is something we do at the end. So in case if there are functional problem, or if there is whole of all the processes of the maxilla are fractured, then we put the 4 plates. The front, in case of high energy injury, high energy zygomaticomaxillary fracture, that case we go from the frontozygomatic first one. So this is the first one which we always put the plate, and then we go to the zygomatic arch, then we go to the infraorbital rim, then we go at the zygomaticomaxillary, and then if we have to do the orbital reconstruction, we do the orbital reconstruction. So these are the plates which we use for the fixation, right. So this finishes the zygomaticomaxillary complex fracture. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. So if you have enjoyed this video, if you have understood it, please do leave a comment in the comment section below, because this motivates me to put videos for you guys every day, and to put an extra effort to make you understand and visualize the things. So please do like the video if you have enjoyed it. Comment in the comment section. You can also support me on Paytm as well as on PayPal to make free videos for you guys and to make free notes. You can also check out the link in the description box below for the notes of this particular video. So guys, till then, keep reading, keep learning, stay motivated. I'll see you soon in the next lecture.